What are you reading?
Nothing that would interest you.
Don't be so sure.
Quark, give me that.
What are you gonna do, arrest me? He walked towards her. The wooden deck heaving to and fro beneath his booted feet.
Hey Star Trek fans, welcome to another edition of the Treklit Report, where I review a recent Star Trek fiction release. This week I take a look at I, the Constable, a Deep Space Nine ebook exclusive novella from November of last year. As usual, the first part of the video will be spoiler-free, after which I will get into spoilers, but I'll give you a warning before I do that. The authors of I, the Constable are Paula M and Terry J. Erdmann, who you may know from their previous works, The Deep Space Nine Companion, which is a great book, one that I keep on my shelf to this day, as well as the other Deep Space Nine ebook novellas, Lust's Latinum Lost and Found, and Rules of Accusation. This novel is a lot of fun. It's kind of Odo takes on a detective case in the style of an old noir detective novel, much like the novels that he would read during Deep Space Nine, loaned to him by Chief O'Brien, like the Mike Hammer novels. I, the Jury by Mickey Spillane, for example, upon which the title of this book is based. In this story, Odo is prowling the mean streets of Ferenginar looking for the missing Quark. At the same time, he's investigating another crime which Quark may have had a hand in. Like most of the ebook novellas that Simon & Schuster have released under the Star Trek line, I, the Constable feels a lot like an episode of Deep Space Nine. The length and the pacing are just right to give it that feel, and it really does feel like a lost Ferengi episode of the show. And I mean that in all the positive ways. Some of the Ferengi episodes weren't that bad. The Magnificent Ferengi, for example, I would put in, if not my top 10, at least my top 20 of Deep Space Nine episodes. There's a lot of great stuff in this story. Odo gets some terrific character moments, as do both Quark and Rom. Rom especially just has a really special place in my heart, and he really gets a chance to shine here as the Grand Nagus of Ferenginar. So with that, I would give this one top marks. This one is definitely worth picking up, especially if you're a huge Deep Space Nine fan like me, and a fan of Quark and Rom when they're well written. So from here, I'm afraid I'm going to move into spoiler territory, so if you want to keep watching, go right ahead. But if you haven't read I, the Constable, I would recommend doing so before you proceed. One of the themes that was toyed with in Deep Space Nine was the idea of female equal rights on Ferenginar. I mean, the Ferengi are an extremely sexist culture. Before a certain point in Deep Space Nine, women on Ferenginar are not allowed to wear clothing or leave the house or earn profit. Through the character of Ishka, those mores start to be turned around, and by the end of the series, we see Ferengi women wearing clothing and becoming a real part of Ferengi society. Now, of course, it's baby steps. I mean, the Ferengi are really sexist when it comes to their culture, so it doesn't make a whole ton of progress, but a lot more than what they had for sure. And this book plays on that idea quite a bit. In this book, we have the stereotypical Ferengi women, a couple of them who are very obviously naive in the ways of business and are products of how they were raised in Ferengi society. But the true antagonist of the story, I would say, is a Ferengi of this new generation. She's very wily and crafty and out to make money for herself in the most devious of Ferengi ways. So as I mentioned in the beginning of the review, Odo is tracking down Quark, who has gone missing on Ferenginar. Quark has an idea to expand Quark's bar and grill and gaming, whatever he wants to call it, into more of a franchise. And his uncle has recently passed away, and he owned a large number of bars, and Quark hopes to get his hands on them. Unfortunately to him, the deeds to those bars have gone to his 3 wives, and 2 of them, like I said, are very stereotypical Ferengi women, but the 3rd one is the true antagonist of the story, and it's her that really sets a trap for Quark and causes him a great deal of headache. Quark himself is investigating what's happened with these bars of his uncle's and gets caught up in this scheme. and Odo kind of trails behind him trying to put the pieces together and figure out what has happened to Quark. All the while we have Rom as the Grand Nagus, who's working with local law enforcement and Odo to try and track Quark down. And I really love the interaction between all the characters here. Rom, like I said, is especially well written. He's a lot of fun. And Quark and Odo, of course, get into it as only they can. One aspect of Block and Erdmann's writing that I really love are all the little references that they manage to sprinkle in. We get a reference to fine Corinthian leather, which, if you don't know, was a commercial by Ricardo Montalban way back in the day.
I request nothing beyond the thickly cushioned luxury of seats available even in soft Corinthian leather.
Another great reference that I caught was to Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven. Bonus points to you if you catch this one. I really enjoy all these little references. They're definitely a lot of fun. Now, I don't know about you, but over the course of 7 years of Deep Space Nine, I really came to love the character of Quark. Initially, I was very skeptical, you know, a Ferengi character based on what we knew from The Next Generation, you know, maybe not the best choice for a main character on the show. But Quark really endeared himself to me and a lot of other fans, and this book really continues that tradition of his character, expanding it and, you know, really making him the lovable Ferengi as opposed to, you know, maybe the Ferengi we got in TNG. And by the end of this story, Quark is basically doing pro bono financial work for this hotel casino that his aunt is hoping to run. And it's really interesting that, you know, we've seen this character come such a long way that by the end he really seems to be, you know, giving of himself and kind of almost philanthropic, which, you know, if I actually suggested that to Quark, he'd probably be very upset with me. So like I said, this is a very quick read. It feels a lot like an episode of DS9. It's a lot of fun, probably a lot more fun than we've gotten in other Treklit lately. So I definitely urge you to check this out. It was a really fun afternoon read. Paula M. and Terry J. Erdmann capture the characters' voices perfectly. And I should also mention Bruce Gibson and I got the chance to talk to the authors on a recent episode of Literary Treks. Here's an excerpt from that one.
Quark says, "A lifetime of scheming and plotting, wheeling and dealing. And what have I got to show for it? One little bar. My Uncle Friend owns 30. And that's it. You know, that's it." And then Paula kind of ran with that and said, let's try to get Quark to take over Friend's bars.
That's great. I didn't even make that connection. I thought it was a storyline that you just made up, but it actually comes from an episode that they have this uncle with 30 bars.
Civil Defense Season 3.
Yeah, we try to involve as many real threads from the show as we can, and probably as few from the established Deep Space Nine books as we can get away with, because we really like to harken back to the show itself.
So check out that episode. You can find it wherever you get your podcasts. We're on Apple, iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spreaker, SoundCloud, third-party apps, all of those. You can find it there. And on YouTube as well. I'll have a link in the video to that. So have you read I, the Constable? What did you think about it? Let me know in the comments. Also, in other sort of Star Trek related book news, I should say I recently finished the novel The Midnight Front by David Mack. I have to say this was a really great book. I really enjoyed it. It's a lot different. It's not the type of book that I'm usually into, but I was really interested in the story. It's the first book in his Dark Arts series, with the second book coming next January. And like I said, I loved it. And after I finished reading it today, I immediately went online and pre-ordered book 2, The Iron Codex. Like I said, it's coming next January. I'll have links to those in the description as well if you're interested in checking those out. And I hope you do. You know, it's really good to see authors like David Mack doing their own original work. Obviously, the Star Trek novel line is on a bit of a hiatus at the moment, hopefully coming back sometime soon. But in the meantime, you know, all these guys are working on different projects, and David Mack's book, I have to say, is really excellent. I urge you to check it out. Well, thank you all for watching. Thanks especially, of course, to the Patreon supporters. I really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone else for liking, sharing, subscribing, and just watching the video. I really appreciate it. So I'll see you all in the next video. Keep reading and keep having fun. Have a great summer, and I'll see you in the next one. Live long and prosper.